Hey there. So there's no DIY online for this thing right here. 2013 Volkswagen Touareg. It's my mother's car, and her window regulator went out. So what happened on the actual vehicle? Once you pop your panel off, you're going to see that your regulator has two rivets. If I switch it around. That rivet right there is what the window regulator sits on. The other side broke. Okay, so that was our issue. This is a really, really big pain in the rump, if I'm being quite honest. So I got a little strategic because I'm working by myself and I had just a little bit of help just with someone holding the window up. What I did, because one side of the regulator was already bad. Let me go grab the regulator just to show you what it looks like. One side of the regulator was pretty bad. This is what the regulator looks like. It is bent out of shape because I actually drilled. I didn't even draw out the rivet. And just a heads up, there are rivets that these are using to stick to the actual whole plate. So just a heads up, before I even continue on, you're gonna have to replace this whole thing. This is, unless you are really wanting to redo your rivets, which are these guys right here. Those little things will sit into the plastic and it's damn near impossible to get out. So what you need to do, what I did, one of mine already popped out because it was bad. So that was bad. What I did on the other side behind the speaker is I drilled around it with just a standard drill. And then as I kept on circling around it, it just popped out. So now my plastic piece is free, okay? So what I did was I made sure that this plastic piece could come out while the window regulators, both of them, are still in there, stuck to the window, okay? Then I had, of course, a ton of room back there to undo undo the regulator from the window. So I'll do a little step-by-step here in a moment. I'm just giving you some context. Because when you do this, you are going to undo, if you're like me, you're going to take your panel off, think, oh, this is a piece of cake. You're going to take this whole thing off. You're going to do all the bolts going around. Well, when you try to take this off, of course, you're going to have to get all of your electronics through the back. You know, you're going to have to undo everything, push it back through the holes. And then you're still stuck. The reason why is because your window regulators have those rivets and they are tied to the plastic piece. So that's obviously where I'm going back and where I showed you why I took those rivets and drilled them out. So after you get the plastic piece off, and I'm sorry, I would have totally loved to record this. I just had no space at all. But it's just a tedious process. So after you got the whole plastic piece off, you run over all your wires and stuff, you undo the window from the window regulator. So the regulators drop down. However, you need to hold on to the window. Why? Because obviously the window has nothing to support it. So all we did was just get a couple pieces of tape on the other side to not affect the window tent. And we held it up, and I just made sure to have someone there just to make sure it didn't drop. Just a heads up, you're going to think your window regulator will come out after you do that. The answer is no. These little two holes right there have, they have two Torx bolts. What happens is the regulator sits up in there and it actually bolts to the frame like that on both ends. So the regulator is bolted to the door frame and the bottom regulator is bolted to the it's riveted to the plastic. So that's where you're going to have your pain in the rump moment. However, the biggest part about this whole job is getting the window to drop down and stay in the track, drop down into the new regulator. So then, and I'm sorry, I wish I could show you when I actually did it. I made sure I made sure everything was good. Obviously, nothing dropped and everything. So I took the new piece. Let's hypothetically say it was this. Took the new piece, I brought the regulators and I stuck them up and I drilled those 2 holes. Not drilled, but I bolted them into the 2 holes. Now this whole piece is sitting there and it's flappy, okay? So then I took the wires and I came through all of it. I brought it back through all of the spots you're supposed to come through. Then I decided then at that point, I want to go ahead and bring the window down. There's one really big pain in the rump outside of the window to do. I decided to do the window first, but this right here, there are 2 connectors that roll up into your door lock, and it is really, really difficult with this thing pretty much, on the car. Yes, it'll flap down, but you're going to really scrape yourself up. So what I mean by that is you need to pretty much lay on the ground. You need to get a flashlight. If you can set it in the back in the spot, that'd be great. You could see up there. I just took my hand, went all the way up there. I plugged in the first one, and it's a pain, but you can do it. Plug in the first, and then what happens is you need to be strategic with running the wire according to the way you got it undid it. Because if the wire is not tucked correctly, the window will come down on the wire. Okay, so you will see it just before you even do this job, because you're probably researching, well, I want to see a DIY before I do it. Those 2 wires need to just double check like how they were undone, and you can just put them back the way they were originally. Okay, it's not difficult there. It's just really tedious. Obviously, you're going to scrape the crap out of your hands. Okay, so then window is obviously taped at this point. So I decided to have my helper slowly drop the window down. I was double checking through this hole that's a speaker there. I was double checking that the window is coming down in the track, because behind this door is a track that it's going to sit in, and it will slowly slide down through that track. That's really important. But with the brand new regulator, what I decided to do was I grabbed both of the pieces that hold the actual window, which is this. Okay, so what you're going to see, this is ridiculous. The bolt that you're going to tighten is on the other side. So this is actually how it is sitting on the regulator. So you can see it grips. It will claw, or pretty much, yeah, rubber grip that. So anyways, I took both of these on both regulators and I pulled them down pretty much almost to the bottom, to where I could see it right here. And then of course I have to pull, and then I can see it right here. The reason I did that is because one, I needed to make sure everything sat in perfectly and it was in the track. And second, I don't know what the book calls to do, but the way I did it totally went around and saved me a lot of time. I'm not sure, does Volkswagen expect you to drop the window with pretty much roll the window down all the way and then pull this whole unit out with the window? I would be shocked if that was the case. But if they did, then I obviously skip that part. I never pulled the window out of the car the whole time. It was always in. I'm not risking dropping the window and then going through that. So long story short, pull these down all the way. My helper slowly but surely made sure the window stayed in its track. The way you do that is you pull the window essentially this way, so it always sits flat up against that track. And then, because that side's going to want to drop always. Slowly came down. I brought it all the way down because I could obviously get my hand with my socket, with my Torx bolts, and grab it and slowly tighten it. What I did was I made sure I just had a flashlight. I went through the hole. Perfect. I was in there. I pulled it back. Perfect. I was in there. The way I got it to sit fully is I stuck my finger on this side in this little, obviously that would be open. I pulled the window this way with my finger and it dropped in. On this side, obviously you have plenty of room. You would pull the window against, your way, and it would drop in. Then I had my helper just pretty much push a little harder just to make sure it was fully sat. And at that point, then I just said, hey, just, they really don't have to do anything else because the window is now fully seated. So I just said, just keep it pushed while I'm pushed down gently while I'm tightening it. So then the next big pain is getting your hand behind, because again, remember this side is pointed this way. You're going to have to get your hand back there with your socket and just take your time. And you're not going to over tighten it. You'll definitely feel when it's pretty much done, but because when you take that apart, you're going to hear a nice click because it was really tight on there. on that window. So you want to do the same. There was one point, this is an aftermarket unit. I took the risk. I didn't really feel like spending several $100s on the new one. And good news is this aftermarket one works, and I'll put the link in the description. I don't get any money for it, so I don't care. But regardless, this is the OEM one, and the rubber seems to sit pretty good. But the aftermarket one, when I dropped the window in on one side and came back up, it kind of wanted to pull the rubber up with it. I just made sure it was fully seated before I fully went down. So anyways, after that, then of course the fun starts of rerunning all of your wires through. Not too big of a deal. It's just it's tedious. The plastics on the back end are very sharp for some reason, so you're gonna cut your hands pretty good. Anyways, after that, I actually took my hands on both sides of the window, brought it down, and it felt really tough. And just a heads up, that's actually normal. The reason why it felt tough, is I just realized, is, you know, when this plastic trim piece, or whatever you want to call it, when this plastic piece is not fully seated against the door, remember your regulators are, you know, they're loose. So the minute I actually bolted everything against the frame, and when I actually ran my like I said, I dropped the window several times, went up and down just to make sure, like there was no wires being pulled or anything like that. And when I noticed that was good, I pulled the window up, and obviously I decided to, you know, again, I let the window stay up and it's not coming down. Okay. So because it's done correctly now, then I of course bolted everything back together, put the motor back on. Don't forget this little piece right here. All you do is undo this piece. When you push it back, I'm sorry, I don't know, is it a leveler? Is it a balance mechanism? But there's an actual electrical wire to that. So you're going to push that out, and it's going to come, you're going to rerun that and pretty much take your finger through and just hold it on the back, and then, yeah, whatever. So not too big of a deal. It took about 3.5 hours, but again, I just tested it, works perfectly, no issues, no cracking noises or anything like that. It was an eBay part, but it was $70 versus, I think it was $300 for brand new. I decided to take the risk on this one, and I'm so far pretty pleased. So regardless, I just wanted to give you a little context on what I did. So just now that you understand the context, if you want to re-listen to me, I'm going to go through the steps, what I did. One, take your door off. Your door, there are other videos on there, but long story short, there is a bolt. You know what? You can just go, that's not hard to do. That's the easy part. Door comes off, the electrical connectors are off. At that point, you need to take off your motor. You need to pull out your grommets, okay? You need to take off your speaker. You need to take this off. This is actually really easy. So just disconnect all these connections. And when you've undone all of these bolts, you're just going to stick your finger on the other side, and you're going to push back on that clip, and it'll pop right out. And then of course, that's when you would take your full connector. You would take this and then switch it to the new one. That's all it is. Then you are ready to probably need to drill out your rivets. So at that point, you're going to decide, you know, did one go bad? Did one go bad? You know, obviously figure out which one is bad or whatever went wrong, because you might need to drill out both. These are the rivets, one, and then the other one is going to be behind the speaker. So anyways, then at that point, you're going to drill both out. You're going to remember, pull the tape back on both of these, loosen that. Remember to tape your window up the whole time, because your window's probably not even being supported anyway, so you've probably already done that. And at that point, you are going to then run your wires back through the holes with the grommets. You're going to push everything back to the side. Then at that point, you should pretty much have your whole plastic piece free. Remember, take the speaker out if I didn't mention that. And at that point, then you're going to, of course, the whole plastic piece is out just like this, no regulator attached. Because you'll see what I mean. When you buy this whole piece, you're going to see the regulators. They're riveted to that. But anyways, I did it the opposite way. I was trying to kind of go around the easier way. It just made sense that way. Then, when this was out, the whole piece, I slowly brought the window down. I undid the Torx bolts. Obviously, remember they're that way, so you're going to have to go all the way down so you can put your hand in that inside of each area to get all the way down, and then you're gonna it's a pain in the rump, but you're gonna have to pretty much just take your time and slowly loosen it. A couple rounds on your socket, you'll feel it, and it's gonna be loose. At that point, you're gonna lift your window back up. Now the regulator is free. Window get taped back up. You're gonna pull the regulators out. And then, of course, then you're going to switch over of course, that electrical piece, the little box that everything pops into. And just make sure all of your, I had one door, I'm sorry, whatever these are, clips. I had one of the door clips. I needed to take that out of the actual panel. So regardless of that, then you're going to take your whole unit, you're going to put it up against the chassis. The door. Remember the regulators are going to sit up here. You're going to go under. And the first thing I did was I bolted both of those. Take your time. Do not rush. In my situation, this actually failed on the first one. So obviously, not only did the rivet fail, but the top on the old one actually failed. So I didn't even have that bolt. The good news is that these bolts are pretty much the same. I took my time. And you're gonna go in, and I just use one of these. So I'm actually one short, okay? So I use that. So regardless, that is on. Now, remember, don't bolt everything on yet, because you're gonna need to pull this back. Then, once you've brought your wires through, that would be next, bring all your wires through, focus on those two things right here. Remember, this behind the scenes has two connectors, and they're really, really difficult to get to, if I'm being honest. From that, you're going to take your time. Just remember how you took them apart, and remember you need to tuck the wires back so they don't come back down. At that point, let me think here. Yeah, you've done that. Then I decided to connect my my motor. I decided to before I even popped my speaker back on, I actually brought my door, bring the whole door over, connect everything, just at least turn the key on to position 1, and just test your window. Go all the way down, go all the way up. Remember, it's not going to be automatic right now because your sensors don't even recognize it can go auto yet if your vehicle supports that. Went up and down. I did it a few times, worked perfectly, put everything back together. So